Hi, Spoiler Piece listeners. Before we get to the episode, we want to take a moment to address the June 24th Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. This decision stripped away the legal right to have a safe and legal abortion. Restricting access to comprehensive reproductive care, including abortion, threatens the health and independence of all Americans. This decision could also lead to the loss of other rights. To learn more about what you can do to help, go to podvoices.help. We encourage you to speak up, take care, and spread the word. Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write and I talk about movies, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association as well.
And my name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. Co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
Yes, you are, sir.
Oh, boy.
Before we delve into this week's episode, if you're a patron, go check out our bonus episode. We put them out every single week just for you, patrons. And this week is on the 1973 Michael Crichton sci-fi Western film, Westworld. And boy, did we have a lot to say about it. Guns were blazing.
Sure did.
People were coming in hot.
Yeah.
Yep. Finger guns were blazing.
It was a fun, lively, robust conversation. So go check it out. And if you're not a patron, consider joining for $5 a month.
I think it's worth the $5 just to hear me scream incoherently about all the things I think of Westworld.
You know, it might be. Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with you. It's a good time. So this week, we have 3 films we're going to be talking about. We have Rubicon, Spiderhead, and The Forgiven. And The Forgiven is the first one we're going to be talking about. And The Forgiven stars Jessica Chastain and Ralph Fiennes. The film is written and directed by John Michael McDonagh, and it is based on the 2012 novel. Let me get you the summary. The Forgiven takes place over a weekend in the high Atlas Mountains of Morocco and explores the reverberations of a random accident on the lives of both the locals and Western visitors to a house party in a grand villa. That is taken from Wikipedia. I wanted to mix it up instead of IMDb. But yes, that is correct. In the first few minutes of the film, they're a couple, Jessica Chastain and Ralph Fiennes, and they're on their way to a party. It's dark outside. They've gotten lost. They're driving through the desert. And all of a sudden, a guy steps out and they hit him and kill him. And then they go to the party and then they work with the police to cover things up. And I only saw the first 30 minutes of this, so that's basically where I left off. So guys, what did you guys think? And obviously feel free to fill in the gaps about the plot.
Well, I mean, so when we were deciding whether or not we were going to watch this, and one of you said, "Oh, it's about this, couple, and they hit someone with their car," and I was just like, "No." But then it's not. I mean, it's about that, but it's also not we're going to cover it up and like all this weird shit happens. It's like we're going to tell everyone, and then all this weird shit happens.
Right. Yeah.
And so what ends up happening, Megan and listeners, is that the boy, what would you say? He's like 14, 15, maybe, Evan? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretty young.
Who gets run over. His father and Saeed, whose last name I can never get right, but he's a very fine actor.
Oh, Tom Wade.
Yeah, thank you. And a third person come to collect the body. And the father says to Ralph Fiennes, this is all translated, by the way. Saeed does all the translating. It's like the father wants you to come back to the village where we live and, be there for the
I'll
funeral,
bury the kid.
bury him, pay your respects, and then we'll bring you back. And everyone's like, all the guests are like, yeah, you got to do that. And Ray Fiennes is like, I do? What?
Yeah, can I just pay this guy €1,000 and be done with it?
Yeah. But the thing that I think is, he goes ahead and he agrees. And the thing that I think is interesting is you realize, kind of, it took me a while to realize this, and it probably shouldn't have, but Ray Fiennes hates himself, which I didn't really pick up on at first. I just thought he was a prick, which he is. But
yeah, I mean, he's a piece of shit for sure.
But it's all based in like self-loathing, and then it becomes sort of revealed over the course of the movie. And I wouldn't say that there's like redemption, although there kind of is. But I've seen one of John Michael Madonna's other movies. I've seen Calvary with Brendan Gleeson.
Such a great movie.
And
great movie.
And it's got the same ending.
Oh.
Just to spoil you, Megan, same exact ending.
Well, then I'm in for it because I love the ending of Calvary.
Yeah, where Brendan Gleeson in that one is shot and killed by Chris O'Dowd, who has been...
He said he was going to kill him. He comes to him at the beginning of the movie
Yes,
and
he
says,
does.
I will kill you at the end of this week. You have 1 week to get your affairs in order. Show up later at the end of this week and I will kill you.
And that's basically what happened. They more or less tell Ray Fiennes, we're going to kill you. And
they do.
And he goes through the thing, and then it turns out that there were two boys. The friend who was with him at the beginning of the movie was hiding behind the rocks with his father's gun. I guess they were actually going to rob them if they didn't buy the artifact or whatever it was, the fossil.
The fossil, yeah.
And so the boy's father says, you got to take care of things the way you didn't take care of things the night this happened. And so he stops them in the road, and Ray Fiennes gets out of the car and he's like, hey, you're his pal. And the kid's like, yep. And Jessica Chastain is like, what the fuck are you doing? Get back in the car, dickhead. And he's like, no. And he basically says, no, this has to happen. I deserve to be.
And he yells, do it at the kid until the kid shoots him and kills him.
Because you get the feeling that the kid's actually going to let's use the phrase chicken out. The kid's going to chicken out. And Ray Fiennes just basically goads him into doing it. Meanwhile, the B plot is that Jessica Chastain has an affair with your favorite actor, Christopher Abbott.
And as soon as I saw Christopher Abbott talking to Jessica Chastain in the beginning, I'm like, oh, they're totally going to have an affair. They're totally going to get together. Yeah,
like
I knew it.
Fuck.
Christopher Abbott is great. I do love him.
Yeah. And what's interesting about Jessica Chastain's character is, they're complicated people, these two.
Yes.
Because she's definitely kind of feels like she's under Ray Fiennes' thumb. But then once she has a bunch of freedom, she's also kind of a shithead too. So
right. She's, doing coke and having an affair. And when they show the flashback of them first hitting the kid, she's kind of like freaking out and being like, what are you doing? Why are you burying his ID in the sand? Like, we need to report this, and then, at first she seems like she's really disturbed by this, but then like she settles into this like calm acceptance of the situation and like not giving a shit fairly quickly
and treating
and
the
then
house
by the
staff
end,
like shit. I might add.
That's always a sign.
Yes. Yeah, throwing champagne glasses against the wall because you can. And who gives a shit? I don't have to clean it up. Yeah, there's definitely that great juxtaposition throughout the movie of these people, these rich assholes in the villa, doing whatever the fuck they want, partying hard, and like treating the help like shit, while Ray Fiennes is like on this emotional journey of like helping this guy bury his son, and then like after the son is buried, Ray Fiennes wakes up in this house and he goes outside and no one's around, which is incredibly eerie. And there's a guy sharpening an axe, one of the three guys. And he's like, Ray Fiennes doesn't understand, but the guy says to him, like, I'm just here to make sure you don't run away. You basically, you're not making it out of this. And the dad comes up to him with a knife, a very large knife. And he's going, like, he looks like he's ready to kill Ray Fiennes. And you see him fight so hard and decide not to kill him in the moment. And is like, okay, you can go.
Yeah. And then Saeed drives him back and discovers that he actually likes Ray Fiennes. And Ray Fiennes gives him the money he was going to pay off the boy's father with, because Saeed says, what I want to do is I want to go to Sweden And Ray Fiennes is like, why do you want to go to Sweden? And it's just great. He's like, because it just looks like it's so cold. It looks like it would just be great. And so he gives him the money so he can go to Sweden. And you can see Saeed being like, you honored your commitment. You said you'd come and you came and you were respectful, and now you're going to get shot in the face and I'm going to take your money.
Well, so the thing is, when they're on their way back, Ray Fiennes actually owns up to the entire thing.
That's true.
To Saeed Tamui's character. He says to him, this was 100% my fault. Like, he told the dad, like, oh, it was an accident, this and that, even though the dad heard from the friend and knew the true story. But he says to Saeed Tamui, like, I did this. 100% my fault. I hit him. I wasn't paying attention. I had been drinking all day. I was arguing with my wife, this and that. 100% my fault, and owns up to it. And so one of the things that I was wondering, Dave, Megan, I wish you had seen the whole thing because I would love to hear your opinion about this too. Do you think so? He owns up to everything to Saeed Tamui, and then he goes back, and they decide to leave in the middle of the night, and that's when the kid stops them and shoots and kills Ray Fiennes. Do you think, A, if he hadn't admitted that entire thing, that he wouldn't have been killed, and B, if he had not left in the middle of the night, do you think they would have killed him? Like, if he'd left during the day, do you think the kid still would have tried to come to kill him? Or do you think the fact that he left at night was like, he knew he was going to die, and so this was like the only way it was going to have to happen if he just has to drive in the middle of the night?
I think it's option B. It's like they left in the middle of the night. If they'd left during the day, I think that Ray Fiennes had decided I need to die for this, and probably all the other shit that I've done in my life. He just lost a big lawsuit, you learn, at some point to one of his patients. Malpractice, yeah. He's an oncologist. And he said, I just missed a couple of tumors. He's not dismissive about it, but he basically says, you get the impression that his alcoholism has gotten to the point that he can't practice medicine efficiently or, without malpractice anymore. The thing that I think is interesting, I see. Here's like, when would Saeed Tamui had the time to intervene and all that and be like, he definitely did it, send the kid, or maybe because it all happens off. If it happens off camera,
right?
What I think is even more interesting is the fact that the movie ends. So the kid shoots and kills Ray Fiennes. I don't remember where he shoots him, like right around
in the chest.
Like, yeah, in the chest.
Yeah.
But a bunch of his blood splatters on Jessica Chastain's face, and that's the final shot of the movie is like her blood-covered face fading to black, and it's like, oh, the blood's on you too. So it's it's I mean, in some ways it's really thought-provoking. In other ways, it's kind of exactly what you expect it would be, especially if you've seen Calvary, because it's just so fatalistic. And this is too. It's really well done. It looks great. It's superbly acted by everyone.
Oh, so good. But I would say that the Moroccan actors and Moroccan characters really shine. I feel like this is their story more than it is the Ray Fiennes and Jessica Chastain character. Like, they're important in that they represent the counterpoint to the Moroccan people, and they're like the representation of like privilege and just this nihilism that rich people have and not caring about other people. But like, the Moroccan characters add so much soul to this, and I love that they're Moroccan actors playing them too. Like, Saeed Tamui's character, the father, Ismail Cantor, is amazing. The guy who's Hamid the servant, Maroud
he's
Zawi,
so good.
He speaks in like proverbs and catchphrases, and one of the other characters jokes later, you should have a Twitter account. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But they just give such great performances. They have to say so much with their faces, and they have to say so much while saying so little. And I just feel like all of them just absolutely nail it in every situation they have, especially the father, because Megan, you find out that the father understands English and speaks it and has understood it the entire time, but was pretending that he didn't.
Yeah, I saw the father in it, so I did see that scene. So to fear that's it's not a surprise. That's a good one. It's a good twist, but yeah. It's like, well, you should never assume that somebody doesn't speak your language.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't, Calvary this is the only movie I have to compare it to by the same filmmaker. I think is a better movie overall because I think that it's not like the points this movie is making are pat, but it's not like really the most thought-provoking thing because you can kind of see all the beats happening. And I feel like if you haven't necessarily seen this story before, you've read it in the fucking news, So it's just kind of like, going through the motions, waiting for everything to happen as well done as it is. It's kind of like, there's no other way this story could end other than the way it does, unless you wanted to really throw people off and be like, they got away with it, but what fun is that? What fun is it to not shoot Ralph Fiennes and have his blood splatter all over Jessica Chastain?
Yeah, that's a choice to end it that way. It's a choice I'm kind of here for.
Yeah. I should also add, whereas the blood in Calvary was computer generated, the blood in this is practical.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Squibs. Yeah.
Yep.
I have to say, listening to you guys definitely spoiler pieced me into finishing it. Not that I wasn't going to anyway, but I was kind of like, I was not feeling this at all in the first 30 minutes. Although I agree with you guys that it looks beautiful. The cinematography, the lighting, everything is stunning. Yeah. And the acting was good too. But I'm just like, these people are insufferable. And I know that's the point, but still it's like, everything is terrible. The world is burning. Do I really want to see these terrible people with privilege get away with everything and being terrible to Moroccan people? Do I want to see this? No, I don't. But hearing you guys, I'm like, ooh, this actually is fascinating. I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm. It definitely goes places, I think, that are worth where it's worth getting on the ride and staying on the ride until the end.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, I did not watch it because of that. I just ran out of time.
These things happen.
Unfortunately, they do. Mm-hmm.
Also, good use of spoiler piece as a verb. We haven't done that in a while. So thank you for saying that we spoiler pieced you into winning seat.
Right.
That is the goal. You know what's funny? I use it a lot in my personal life, like out and about. Like I'll say that to my roommate. I'm like, you spoiler pieced me into wanting to do that. Like even if we're not talking about movies. It's ridiculous and I love it.
Evan, do you have anything to add about The Forgiven?
Oh, that's a yes.
I have one more thing, but I can't take credit for this because this was actually Shauna's really great observation, but I felt like it was definitely worth talking about. So there's this whole angle of like fossils and that they're mining and selling the fossils to rich people. And there's the whole conversation that Ray finds his character and the father have about, there's this fossil called an Elvis that is, this like gross, evil looking demonic fucking thing, but it's extremely rare and it's worth so much money and they sell it and it has this like inherent value, despite being something that should otherwise be worthless. And she pointed out that that's basically just like a metaphor for Ray Fiennes, his entire character in this movie, as being just like something that people in the West inherently seem to find value in, but is somebody that is just like an utter prick, an irredeemable, worthless prick. I just thought that was a brilliant observation. I didn't want to take credit for it, but I felt like it was important to mention.
Good one.
I'll take credit for it. I actually called Shauna and told her that. So no.
You're like, Shauna, tell Evan this.
Yeah. Tell Evan this and then don't tell him I said it. We'll both look amazing. So. Just kidding.
That's funny. I thought your last observation was going to be about Matt Smith and the other guy being the gay couple. So
they're treated almost as like, do I want to use the phrase puppet masters? Like everything is happening because not Caleb Landry Jones,
that's
but
the
the main Tom, is that
Matt
his name?
Smith.
He's kind of like the audience surrogate, sort of narrating, like, he's the Greek chorus. He's saying like, this is what happens in Morocco and this is what you should be thinking, kind of laying out the political landscape. And it's actually kind of like, you could figure this shit out for yourself, even if he wasn't there. So I don't know. Good performance though.
Yeah, they're almost like a comic relief in places too. Like pointing out just like how ridiculous everyone is in this crew and how everyone else, especially the Matt Smith character, he's kind of like very like sarcastic, very sardonic in points, like, you know, just pointing out how awful Ray Fiennes' character is when he tells stories about bad shit he did in boarding school. Like they went to the same school, but they were like years apart. So you hear there's like nasty things about him, and just like he's such a, I don't know. Yeah, I enjoyed his performance in this.
There is one funny line that Matt Smith says that, you know, Ray Fiennes was such a horrible racist apparently in college that of course now he's a liberal. And I just thought, wow, that's really funny. And also, I think I know a few people like that. So
that's funny. It usually works the opposite way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, you just get the feeling that it's kind of a throwaway line, but you get the feeling that everything that Ray Fiennes does now is based in guilt, or relieving guilt temporarily. So it would be interesting to learn what his backstory is, but you don't learn because he gets shot. So,
but it sounds like you get enough tidbits of it that you can kind of map out his psyche
between the murdering the mice and printing the racist newspaper. I feel like you learn a fair bit about his character.
Right.
Yikes. I'm very intrigued. Very intrigued. All right.
So that's The Forgiven.
All right. Well, let's talk about our next film, the sci-fi film Spiderhead by Joseph Kosinski. Kaminsky or Kosinski? Oh my God, what's wrong with me?
Kosinski.
Thank you, Kosinski. Starring Chris Hemsworth and Miles Teller and Jurnee Smollett. So here is the log line from IMDb. In the near future, convicts are offered the chance to volunteer as medical subjects to shorten their sentence. One such subject for a new drug capable of generating feelings of love begins questioning the reality of his emotions. All right, guys. Yes, Dave. What did you think of Spiderhead?
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say I really wish this movie were a whole fuck of a lot better because the soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah, the soundtrack is the best thing. The Yacht Rock soundtrack, yes, please, give me all of it.
I mean, this movie is just kind of, it's bad in the way that is really disappointing because it's also boring and predictable.
Yes.
So,
and it has good ideas, I think. It has a good premise for the story that it just totally squanders.
Yeah.
It's the kind of movie that could have a lot of really sharp commentary, and it is not punchy enough for that. It just does not have it. But it's also weirdly, its tone is all over the place because it's tackling like lots of serious issues in like a weirdly cartoony way, like particularly in how they handle the resolution. Feels like it's out of a cartoony action movie and not out of the reality in which we've been playing in, which is like you have this horrible guy, Chris Hemsworth, who's been doing weird, fucked up, torturous experiments, and then like they call the cops on him, and then he was like, oh, he's like high in his own drugs, and then smashes his plane into a fucking mountain because he's high.
And then Miles Teller and Jurnee Smollett are laughing about it. Like, as if they're high.
Right.
But they're not.
And nobody told Chris Hemsworth the first rule of being like a drug kingpin.
I know what you're going to say.
Is you never get high on your own supply.
That is correct.
Like, what's
Did
the matter
you not
with
watch New Jack City? Come on now. New Jack City, The Wire, all of these things talk about this. You don't do it. Don't do it. I'm so glad you guys did not like this because I hated this. And there's a lot of problems with this, but my big problem hinged on this movie is so rapey and lack of consent, and it grossed me out so much and made me so uncomfortable, and the film never actually tackles that, never addresses it, never deals with it, never does anything with it. And so everything else that I already didn't like, aside from the amazing Yacht Rock soundtrack, it just made me dislike this even more. But Dave, take it away.
I was just going to say that on what planet do we live that somebody can run a pharmaceutical company like this and apparently have no R&D, nobody else working for him. Like he's the only person developing these drugs. And if there were all of the other things in a conventional pharmaceutical company, prisons, I know that this is technically an island, but prisons aren't islands. Somebody would know about this and be telling the inmates, you know? I mean, the whole idea that this is happening in a vacuum is ludicrous. And I'm not seeing anything Miles Teller hasn't done before, which is super disappointing. And I really wish that somebody would just stop Joseph Kosinski, because he has made 5 movies and 0 of them are good. The only reason that Top Gun Maverick is watchable is because of the dogfights. You know? Everything else in it is dog shit. So, like, Only the Brave, terrible. In fact, Evan, you probably remember that movie just made me mad.
Yeah.
And
I like Tron Legacy, but that's about it.
Yeah. What a great waste of Olivia Wilde. Come on. So, yeah, I don't really have too much to say about this. It was just dumb and predictable and just slow.
Slow. Oh my God.
I hadn't even thought, when we get to the whole like reveal, Journey Smollett, I'm like, what's the horrible thing that she did to her child that we're going to learn about later? And then she left her in a hot car, which, by the way, is every responsible parent's nightmare, and probably every irresponsible parent's nightmare. But like, it was just so icky, and just, why can't she be the one person in there who actually, she murdered her. Not that I want people to be abused.
No, I know what you're saying though. Her abusive partner.
She kills her abusive partner in self-defense instead of like leaving her child. I mean, come on.
Well, that's such a great point, because if you want to make a commentary, you could have done that. You also could have done the thing where she was doing like drug running or something, or selling drugs or transporting drugs for her boyfriend or partner, which is something Orange is the New Black tackles, which is something a lot of women get incarcerated for. They get caught holding the bag. So yeah, there's other ways you could have gone. You could have made a very subtle commentary that would have been very salient, very true to why women get incarcerated. And no, you rely on some cheap, awful trick that's like so soap operatic and not in a good way, and just awful. The one thing I will... It's
not in a good way, yeah.
No, because I love a melodramatic soap opera, but not like that. That's just cheap and manipulative, and it's just a ploy, and I hated it. The one thing I will say is I do really like Chris Hemsworth in this, which is the reason I wanted to see this, because Bilge Ebiri gave like a glowing... I don't know if he gave a glowing review to the whole movie, but he gave a glowing review to Chris Hemsworth's performance and said it was his best performance in anything, and I was like, whoa, I need to see this because I like Chris Hemsworth. His performance is great. He is full throttle. He is all in. I really liked it. But that's it. The yacht rock, which is amazing. Dave, I keep waiting for you to break out into song.
Back in a long ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
As soon as Michael McDonald came on,
love it.
I knew it.
Love it.
It's like, oh my God, Dave is going to be singing Michael McDonald.
Love it. There was so much yacht rock, and I'm so here for it. That was great. Chris Hemsworth was great. Everything, yes,
a lot of 80s music.
Everything else was trash in this movie. I was so mad. The pacing is terrible, like you guys said. It's slow. The ideas, I don't even know if this is necessarily a good premise. Like maybe the premise itself, but all the other ideas are just awful and not explored and just wasted. And there's so much you could have said about prisons and the prison industrial complex and pharmaceuticals and abusing pharmaceuticals and testing on people and the ethics of that and all of these things. And they do nothing with it.
Yeah. They totally squander. I mean, and there's even an interesting sub-conversation around this drug in the movie Darkenflox, which causes people to freak out and one person to actually kill herself. And this idea of like, oh, if you had the choice, who would you give the Darkenflox to? Like, let's say you have to give it to one of these people. And like they're using it as an opportunity to like test the love drug, which is called like Love Actin, by the way. Hilarious name for a drug. The drugs are numbered based on a bingo card, which is another hilarious thing. And they're also trying to pioneer this like drug that gets people to obey called obedience or whatever. OBDX. So I don't know. I think there are some decent ideas in here, but they just don't go anywhere interesting. And there's just no depth of commentary here. It's all very surface level. Like the facility, it has a kind of shiny veneer, and underneath there's just not really anything going on except a good performance by Chris Hemsworth.
He has actually become quite a fine actor given the right material. And this isn't the right material, and he's still quite good. So I sort of feel like he's probably even better than we think he is. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I think because he's so good looking, people kind of, like a lot of actors, like he's so fun to look at. It's just kind of like you forget that he can actually do what he's hired to do.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I always thought he was really great in Rush. I thought that was a great movie, and I thought he's great
excellent
in
that movie. And car racing movies are not my thing. So
I'm sorry, I'm the dissenting voice. I despise that movie, but I do like it.
See, I don't love that movie because I don't like movies about cars except Drive. I think that's the one movie about cars.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, Fast and Furious 6. That one too.
That's a good one. And the fifth one. But anyway,
I do love a good car chase. I'll admit that.
Good car chase is good. Yes, I agree with you. But yeah, I like Chris. I like Chris Hemsworth in oh my god, in the Ghostbusters, the Paul Feig Ghostbusters.
I think that's when we learned that he could be funny,
yes,
right?
He's so funny. Yeah, he's really good in that. And I was like, that made me look at him differently. I was like, he's actually way more talented than I thought. Yeah. But yeah.
Oh God, he's in the Red Dawn remake. I just remembered that.
Oh God, there's a Red Dawn remake? Oh no.
It's even worse than Red Dawn. It's amazing.
It was one of those movies that got thrown on the shelf when was it MGM went bankrupt. There was Cabin in the Woods and Red Dawn, and I can't remember if there are other movies.
Why don't I remember this?
But that was one of them.
Weird. Anyway.
Yeah, and then they released Red Dawn, the remake, and I mean the original Red Dawn, I think is terrible.
It is,
movie, but
it's terrible and reprehensible.
It is, but there's a carnage counter that is kind of amazing, and the Blu-ray issue that is absurd. It keeps track of all the people killed. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty funny. But I remember one very, very brief tangent involving the Red Dawn remake. Jeffrey Dean Morgan shows up as a character, and he describes the situation they're in as a shit sandwich without the bread. And that was what I used to describe the entire movie in my review.
Evan, I love that. That's amazing.
Nice. Very nice.
Speaking of good
Red
actors.
Dawn.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I was just going to say the original one. If I'm not mistaken, it's directed by John Milius, but written by Kevin Reynolds, who went on to direct Waterworld. So just mention that.
Okay.
Anyway, going on. What were you going to say, Megan? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I also really love Jurnee Smollett. Not that she's really given much to do here, but I do typically like her. She's really great in many things like Eve's Bayou and Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Not Underground Railroad, Underground. Birds of Prey. She's great in that.
Birds of Prey, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this movie just sucked.
This movie is no good.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Joseph Kosinski had his big Top Gun Maverick hit, so I'm sure we're going to have to see some other fucking thing that he does. I don't understand how he got the movies made that he's gotten made, because none of them have made money except for Top Gun Maverick.
Right.
So I guess this is what happens when Tom Cruise thinks, you're his George P. Cosmatos or whatever the guy is who directed all those Stallone movies that suck. So, but also directed Tombstone. So there's that too. I happen to think Tombstone's a bad movie, but I'm in the minority.
Oh, I've never seen Tombstone, but people love Tombstone. Yeah.
Oh,
we should watch.
I love Tombstone.
Future Patreon, everybody.
We're going to watch Tombstone. I love Wyatt Earp, the Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp movie.
And that movie's not very good. So
I like that. Anyway.
I love that movie too, but you know what it is?
It's not amazing. I agree with you. It's not like an amazing movie.
Tangent piece theater. Kevin Costner is so he's so wooden in that.
Yeah.
Even when he's young and exuberant, he's wooden. It's hard. It's a hard movie. Anyway.
I don't know what it is though. I love them. Well, I haven't seen it in a very long time, so maybe I wouldn't love it anymore, but I used to watch it a lot. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever. Anyway, the fact that we're talking about Red Dawn and Tombstone and Wyatt Earp rather than Spiderhead should kind of tell you something.
Yes, it says something. That's for sure.
The last thing I'm going to say about this is based on a story that first appeared in the New Yorker.
Yes.
And I don't usually read fiction in the New Yorker precisely for the reason that people think that because it's in the New Yorker, it's going to be great. And I find most of the short stories printed in there tedious.
Oh.
So I'm glad I never read this one. So there you go.
Evan, do you have any final thoughts on Spiderhead?
I do have one final thought. I didn't say this earlier, but I meant to, that I agree with you, Megan, that this movie is rapey and gross.
Thank you. It's
particularly like the fact that they felt the need to make a sound effect for penetration. I thought was just absolutely disgusting.
Oh man, I missed that.
And B, they spend so much screen time watching them fuck in the lab that I'm like, what is this movie? Yeah. Why are we still watching people fuck? We get the idea. This is gross and just absolutely disgusting. And this is just wasted screen time.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up too, because you reminded me, Evan, of something I wanted to say. Like, there's no discussion of birth control. There's no discussion of condoms. There's no discussion of STIs. There's nothing. And then you find out later, because at first we only see Miles Teller having sex with a couple of women. And then we find out everybody is fucking everybody for these testing purposes. So yeah, hello, like STIs, hello, pregnancy, hello, consent. Like the fact that they're supposed to be consenting to the drug by saying, I acknowledge, but then they're high as a kite. You cannot consent when you are high or drunk. You just can't. It takes away the very point of consent. So the fact that they're not actually consenting to all of this sex and they're not even talking about anything else, like any other safe sex, protection, anything, is just even more disgusting. So yeah, this was so incredibly rapey. I was so disgusted and disturbed. And this made me, like I said it before, made me hate this even more.
Yeah, and I'm not going. I'm making a sub point to the point you just made, and I'm not defending this. I'm not defending this movie, but when the secondary character, I guess Chris Hemsworth isn't the main character, but he's the most important secondary character. When the whole thing hinges on the notion that he's just a despicable, soulless human being, all this shit kind of makes sense. Doesn't make it right, but it all kind of makes sense. But what I was going to say is the thing that I found really gross was that Miles Teller, even though he has a little bit of uneasiness with all the sex drugs, he only really freaks out when the enormous guy with the tattoos, when he finds out he's got to fuck that guy. And he's like, nope. And it's like, I remember thinking there in the moment, all right, yes, the whole concept is gross, but if the whole idea of the drug is to make you love having sex with anyone, you're just a homophobe. Yeah. So now I don't like you, so.
Right. And that could have been a really potentially interesting way to discuss toxic masculinity, heteronormativity, homophobia, pansexuality, bisexuality, like a whole host of things. But like you said, it's just that he ends up just being homophobic and it goes nowhere. And it feels like it's just supposed to be a gag. Like it's like, oh, ha, ha, they're going to make these two dudes have sex. Isn't that funny? And it's like, no, you're gross because you're homophobic as fuck. Like, this movie just makes me so mad.
And having the big muscly tattoo guy make a joke like, oh, it's your loss. Right? It's like, okay, really? Like, that's how you're gonna like try to excuse this moment?
And then later to have somebody, I think it's Chris Hemsworth, talk about like, well, if you were in regular prison, you'd be getting, you'd have that all the time. Like talking about how he'd be raped by guys like that. Like that's disgusting.
Yeah, it was a really disgusting throwaway line. I'm glad you reminded me of it because I remember feeling just absolutely grossed out by it.
I forgot about it. So yeah, thanks. I probably forgot about it on purpose.
Probably blocked it out. I know, intentionally. I know. This movie, the more we're talking about it, and I already thought this movie was garbage, this movie is trash, and I hate it. Hate it. Chris Hemsworth and Journey Smollett, you deserve better. Getting better other things.
Miles Teller deserves better. He's a better actor than this. Yeah. I don't know what kind of person he is, but,
I don't know if he's that great of an actor. He's amazing in Whiplash. I do love Whiplash, but I haven't really seen him be great in a lot of other things. He's just fine in everything else I've seen him in. But even a fine actor deserves better than this garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is trash. And Yacht Rock deserves a better movie too. Michael McDonald demands better. Reason deserves better.
Thomas Dolby deserves better.
Yeah. I know. When She Blinded Me with Science came in the first time, I was just like, are you kidding me? First of all, that's fucking new romance. Second of all, fine.
Listen, I'm here for songs, like soundtracks that convey what's going on in the film. you don't want just kind of any old random song. But at the same time, too on the nose is equally bad.
Here's some fun trivia to take away the stink of this. Thomas Dolby invented the sounds on the Nokia phone that had Snake on it. So, yeah.
Interesting. Whoa. Well, let's move on because this movie is garbage.
Yes. Yeah.
So our final film that we're going to be talking about is the sci-fi film Rubicon, directed by Magdalena Lorich. And here is your IMDb summary. Following a catastrophe on Earth, the planet is covered in a toxic fog. The crew in the space station must decide whether to risk their lives to get home and search for survivors or stay safe in the station's algae symbiosis system. That's not entirely accurate, by the way, but it's close.
No. Yeah. It gets some of the job done. All right. Yeah. I want to go first on this one.
Please do, Evan.
I found this movie utterly disappointing. I feel like it's in a similar camp to the last movie we talked about, where I was expecting much sharper commentary and much more interesting stuff. But instead, I got this like really derivative sci-fi movie, and then I've seen like the same premise like so many other times. Like, it's so much reminded me of things like Sunshine, Midnight Sky, and also it kind of. Megan, I don't remember if you were on the episode when we talked about the movie Silent Night, which came out last year.
Yeah, I know the film, but I wasn't on.
Horror-ish kind of movie about this like fog that comes and kills everyone. I felt like this was like a weird sequel to that movie where we see what the astronauts are thinking while the deadly fog is rolling across the earth. But I found this so derivative and so frustrating, especially getting back to Sunshine. They called the thing in this Icarus. They also called the thing in Sunshine Icarus, but it makes sense because they're flying close to the sun.
Right.
Why did they call this Icarus? It has nothing to do with this. No. It's so weird that they would decide to call their like failsafe Icarus. I don't understand. It's just so weird.
Evan, you're doing your Dave impersonation. It's great.
I know. Yeah, I'm actually really, really glad, Evan, that you brought up the fact that it's derivative, because this is also very much, we didn't cover it on the show, but it's very much like the Netflix film Stowaway, which is a 3-person crew, and then they find a 4th person on board, and they don't have enough food and supplies for all the people, so they have to decide who's going to die.
Yeah, but that turns out to be a lie in this.
I know. I know. I'm just saying, but like, this is such an old sci-fi trope. Like, it goes back to the 50s. Like, the fact like, oh, we don't have enough supplies. Oh, we don't have enough food. Oh, what are we going to do? So yeah, it does do something slightly different, but it is such a common trope. But so I'm really glad you mentioned that. Dave, what did you think of this?
I thought this was shit. Starting with the production design. Can we make a sci-fi movie that takes place on a spaceship that doesn't look like every other motherfucking sci-fi movie that takes place on a spaceship? Please. I don't want to give credit to that fucking Ty Sheridan movie where at least everything in it is white. You know? What was that movie called? Voyagers. It was like with all the horny kids. I don't know. Voyagers.
Lord of the Flies in Space.
Thank you.
That movie is proper garbage. Title. But at least everything is different. Sort of.
And this, you know, I mean, there were some interesting ideas, but what I don't want to watch, and maybe this is just because of what happened last week, but what I don't want to watch is basically have your male and your female protagonist basically talk about My Body, My Choice for an hour and 40 minutes. You know? It just...
Yeah.
Like, we've gotten into this. I'm sure that there are points that you think you have to make, but first of all, make them better. Second of all, like the Russian guy I kind of liked. I don't remember his character's name. Was it Dmitri?
Yes.
He's a great actor. Yeah. I really liked him too.
Mark Ivanir.
Yeah.
He is so good. I've seen him in a million other things. I love him. He's fluent in 6 languages, by the way.
Whoa!
Makes perfect
sense. He's on this great Israeli TV show. That's where I know him from. He plays like a high-powered manager. He's awesome in that. So he's like the only thing that I liked about this movie.
Yeah, but like your 2 leads, Hannah Wagner and Gavin Abbott, just the most milquetoast, bland performances. Like. She's like on a different planet in this movie from everyone else. It's just like, I don't even know what this performance is. Did you look at the script and say, yes, it's terrible, but this is my big shot. So I'm going to act in it, even though there's no way to make this good. Is that what happened? And then him, just this wishy-washy fucking doofus, rich kid who's up there stuck with everyone else and is like, well, you're pregnant, so we should talk. Oh, fuck you. Just just fuck off. Your bullshit. At least Dimitri has reasons, scientific reasons for doing what he's doing. But right. Getting on the shuttle, how many times did they almost go to Earth? Is it 3 or just 2? I can't remember.
I don't know. It's at least 2.
Because the shuttle burns up because what's his face? Dimitri sabotages it. Yeah. And then the second one, she sabotages it. Yeah.
And then what's his face tries to too. So I think it is 3.
Yeah. And it's just like they're literally having the same conversation over and over.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck am I watching? It was, and here's the thing that's going to make you both, well, it's not going to blow your minds. But so I was about, I don't know how long into it, like 45 minutes into it. So we record this on Wednesday. So Monday night, 2 nights ago, I was watching it, fell asleep about 45 minutes in, woke up during the closing credits.
Oh.
And I was like, damn it. So I had to watch the rest of it last night. And I was just like, oh my God, this is what I went back to watch. Fuck me. It was just like, because like the 45-minute mark, you don't know she's pregnant yet, so right. It was just so disappointing. And just the whole thing about all the rich people have the power. Yes. Okay. You're making points about climate change. Okay. Like no one else has done that. And if you're going to hit me over the head with something that I already know, do it in a way that I haven't done it before. I don't know what that is because at this point, I think we've seen them all, but also just like, it's just all the rich people are there and the soldiers didn't survive. So your sister's dead. Who cares? This is what happens in the real world. Why wouldn't it happen in a movie too? Think of something better. Ugh. So this movie kind of made me mad in case you couldn't tell. No amount of yacht rock could have saved this either.
Yeah, at least I was going to say Spiderhead at least had yacht rock.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of this could have been improved if you had different actors, superior actors, playing Hannah and whatever the doofus's name was. What was his name? Gavin. Of course his name is Gavin.
Fucking Gavin.
I know.
Gavin.
Just like a fucking, pasty English guy named Gavin.
I actually think, but here's the thing. I actually think he did do a good job because I think he played that role very well because I think he is supposed to be really annoying and obnoxious and just pasty and like boring and blah.
Well,
so I think he did a good job. Yeah, he did. And I think the actor who plays Dimitri is, as we said, fantastic. He's wonderful. I think he is far and away the best part of this film. And the actress who plays Hannah, like, what the hell is that? Like, what is happening with that acting? Like, and I don't know if maybe because maybe English is not her first language. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. But the acting is just, it's not good. I did not hate this though.
Ooh.
I don't know why. Because I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying.
It is dystopian.
I'm such a sucker for it. I'm such a sucker for dystopian. Yeah, it really is my sweet spot. And because I didn't hate it, I wasn't bored. I was like, yeah, okay, where is this going? Even though I kind of knew where it was going. I will say though, Dave, I'm so glad that you brought up the pregnancy because that part pissed me off. Because I'm like, really? She's not gonna discuss like a self-induced abortion? Like, we're not gonna talk about that? We're like, at least have a conversation about it, even if she can't actually do it. Like, and especially considering everything happening with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Like, of course, even if that didn't happen, God, I wish that didn't happen. But even if it didn't happen, I want a robust reproductive health conversation. I despise it in a film when someone gets pregnant and they don't want to be pregnant. And then they're just like, oh, well, I'm going to have a baby now. And it's like, that's not reality. Reality is you either are going to have a conversation about what you can do or should do, or you're going to internally have that conversation with yourself. So you need to let us in on that. But that doesn't happen where people are just like, oh, well, I'm just going to do it. Like, no, maybe you come to that decision, but you actually have to think about it or talk about it. Exactly. Interrogate. Perfect word. Thank you, Evan. So so the fact that she doesn't even want to have a kid, as we learn, she talks about, I never thought about having kids. I didn't want kids. As a soldier, I didn't even think that. She's
not even supposed to be able to have them.
No, exactly. Plot. So that's what pisses me off too, along with you, Dave, is that, oh my God, like what the fuck? Like this would have been a perfect opportunity to talk about issues of reproductive health. It would have been a perfect opportunity to talk about infertility or medical interventions or whatever, bodily autonomy. And they don't talk about it at all.
Autonomy, that's the word I should have used. Yes.
You're welcome. But I did not hate this, but it's got acting issues, and the pregnancy drove me so mad. Drove me up the wall.
I wish there had been a moment or somebody had made the decision where, Gavin's just like, well, we can't have a baby up here. And she's like, no kidding. I thought that's exactly what I was thinking,
Right?
And then the doctor's like, I'm an MD, no problem. Just like, actually, I don't know if he was an MD, if he was just like a PhD in botany. Like, I don't know. But he seemed like he had a lot of medical knowledge in addition to plant knowledge, which is why I mentioned that.
Totally. I mean, here's the thing. If Prometheus, which is a wildly awful and problematic film in many, 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 many ways, has such a great abortion scene, why the hell can't we have at least a conversation about it in this movie? Like, what the hell?
I don't know. Just this
ridiculous.
I know. I was actually really excited to see this because I don't remember which of you was pushing for it. I feel like I have to blame one of you.
You can blame me.
Megan raised her hand on the video.
I was interested in seeing it too. I'll take.
I know, but I pushed it.
But here's the thing: I read the description, and I was like, "Oh, this actually sounds really cool." So I was glad that we agreed on it. And then we got into it. I was like, "Oh no!"
Right. Well, because on paper it sounds like a really great morality play, which is ultimately like a lot of great sci-fi.
Yep.
About like survival of the human race is like these difficult conversations and these worst case scenarios where you're faced with all bad decisions and you have to pick the least bad decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm always here for a chamber piece. I love when and so many sci-fi films do this in part because it makes for potentially interesting work, but also because it helps with a budget, a limited budget.
Yeah.
But there's touches of things they're talking about, like when they're talking about when he's like, Gavin is all like, we need to go down there. We need to bring them the algae. That's not even a question. And then, Dimitri doesn't want to, and she doesn't want to. Wagner doesn't want to. Like, she wants to, like, they want to stay, and they're going back and forth on it. And like, that could have been really interesting. And I kind of liked it. I just wish there had been more.
Yeah. The one thing that I found kind of interesting is how Dimitri tells them this ship is designed for 6 people to breathe, and then if there's fewer than 3 people, that's the minimum. Yes. Everything recalibrates, and there's too much CO2, and then we die. And then you get the impression that Gavin kills himself at the end, his second suicide attempt, I may add, kills himself at the end to fuck the 2 of them over, and then you find out Dimitri made the whole thing up just so he wouldn't leave the ship the first time. And it's like, that's the one interesting thing in this movie, is that Gavin turned out to be such a, I don't even know what the adjective is, but he turned out to be that he decided he'd rather kill the 2 of them. Self-righteous. Thank you.
It's a good one.
He was so self-righteous, he'd rather kill himself
and them.
Force their hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because if they didn't leave, then they'd die. But unbeknownst to him, Dimitri had lied about that.
Right.
And then, of course, Dimitri, the one person who doesn't deserve to feel bad in any of this, because he's pretty much done the right thing the whole time, he's sitting there, but I made that, just...
Yeah, but then, so what did you guys think about the other quote-unquote twist, where the kid, years later, communicates with the Earth, and they're still people, and they didn't die, and they're looking for survivors, so they could have been down there the whole time?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, none of the, like, they said that the cloud eliminated a lot of the ability for their satellite equipment to work, to get or radio equipment to work, to get signals down. So it kind of makes sense that, when you're moving that fast through space, that, okay, so maybe there's 300 square miles of, somewhere that's not covered by this cloud, but you're whipping by it so fast, I'm not a physics person, but you might not have time to get, I don't know. You both are smarter than I am, so.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
I mean, not about astrophysics.
Evan's like, wait, other stuff, yes, astrophysics, no.
Like life stuff, sure, but science, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny though, hearing you talk about it. You're right. I just realized it's also kind of the plot of the TV show, The 100.
Yes, and I've only seen the pilot of that show.
Yeah. Well, that show was good, and then it went downhill. But anyway, that's a whole other tangent. But yeah, I mean, that's the plot of The 100, is that they're up on a space station. They're up there thinking that the Earth is uninhabitable, and then they send kids down there who are incarcerated. It's a weird premise. And then they find out, surprise, there are people living there because the Earth has been habitable the whole time, sort of. Anyway, it's a whole thing. But I'm like, ooh, that they kind of, I don't know if they happen to have separately the same idea or they got inspiration from that. But anyway, that's what I was thinking of. But
and then the ending though, when Hannah's kid with his long blonde locks is running around and talking to these other kids, do they know that he's talking to other kids? Or is he just like picked up the radio? Because the radio is broken at one point. Hannah finds it, she fixes it, and then they break it. And then at some point it's gotten fixed again, and they left it on this whole time, I guess with the hope that maybe somebody would talk to them. And then it's just the kid, and he's like, hey, let's play Space Pirates, well, blah, blah. I don't know what they're fucking talking about. Anyway.
Yeah. Evan, what did you think of that ending?
I kind of just had stopped caring by that point. So I was like, whatever. Okay, great. There's still survivors. I mean, it was kind of a funny fuck you to them, though. It's like, oh, you stayed up here this entire time and you thought everyone else was doomed. But guess what? They're still survivors.
Yeah, but
it kind of like, yeah, I don't know. It kind of like, it makes a point about humans and our will to survive, even in the face of just of having the odds simply stacked against us. But some people will find a way. Life will find a way, as Jeff Goldblum. Was it Jeff Goldblum that said that?
Yes, it was in Jurassic Park. Yeah,
in Jurassic Park.
Yep. Well, that's also what Hannah says, too, when her and Gavin are talking about having a baby. And she's like, well, we can just have the baby up here. And he's like, that's no life for a baby. The baby will never see Earth. And she's like, well, at least it would be alive. So, yeah.
At least it would be alive, even though we haven't discussed other options. Okay.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I would like to think that this movie was being prescient, but it wasn't. It's just dumb.
Do we have any final thoughts on Rubicon? Although that's a great spot to end on, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Real quick. This is also
go ahead.
This is a lot. This is also a lot like that. That Christmas movie that Keira Knightley is in, where the fog goes over like England and everybody takes their suicide capsules.
Isn't that what Evan said earlier?
Did you say that?
Yes.
Oh.
I said that this felt like a sequel where we saw the same thing, but from the astronaut's perspective.
I thought that you were talking about a different movie. I thought you were talking about the movie where that weird fog came over Earth and turned everybody into sea creatures. You remember that?
I love that movie.
Yeah, what was that? That's what I thought you were talking about.
Sea Fever. No, not Sea Fever.
Sea Fever.
No. Sea Fever was the one at sea.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, Sea Fever was the one at sea. Damn it. I can't think of it, but it was so good and I love it.
Do you know which one I'm talking about, Evan?
Yeah. I was like, I'm not Evan. But
I know you do.
No, I maybe All I'm thinking of is The Pink Cloud, which I know is not the same.
No, not that movie. That's the one you and I saw, Evan. That was no good. No, it was the girl who's like the scientist and she goes away to her boyfriend's beach house.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah. Now I know the one. I think it's literally just called Beach House.
Is it called Beach House?
Like that.
Could be. I don't know.
Well, that movie is great and I loved it because I'm here for an eco horror film. Yeah, and that was a good one.
It's not called like Weird New Species That Came Out of the Sea. That's not what it's called, but that's kind of what happens.
It is the beach house. Good job, Evan. It is the beach house.
Beach house.
We did it, gang.
What should we call this?
What
should we call this?
Episode 1.
Horror sci-fi movie about like a new species being spawned from algae in the ocean. Let's call it the beach house. Good.
The beach house.
All right. I have screamed and yelled enough for this episode for like the next 4 episodes. So I want to apologize to the former residents of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, who, blinked out during that. So I know. I don't know where I was going with that, but
is that your town that you used to live in?
No, but I have lived in Wisconsin. Okay. But Fond du Lac is just a funny name for a town.
I knew you had lived there, so that's why I was curious. Okay, back to the show. Let's do a quick recap. The Forgiven is in theaters today. Guys, would you recommend it?
I would. Yeah.
Yes, but your mileage may vary.
Got it. All right. Spiderhead is streaming now on Netflix. I think it's safe to say we would all say avoid it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Unless you're in film school and you want to know how not to make a prison movie. Then you should watch it.
That is a very good point, but I would still say avoid it. But I like your point, Dave. You're mixing it up. And Rubicon is in theaters today as well. I think it's safe to say you guys would say skip it. Is that correct?
That is safe.
Yes.
I'm kind of lukewarm. I'm not going to say definitely avoid it, but I don't think you need to rush out and see it. Maybe watch it when it's on streaming, but because Dimitri is good in it, the actor who plays him. But there's a lot of problems with this.
Would you say your mileage may vary?
I would say your mileage may vary.
Interesting.
Well, we want to give a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you so much for making us sound great week in and week out.
Thanks, Otto.
Thank you.
You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you get podcasts. We're at all of the podcast platforms of your choice. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can find us all over social media. We're at Spoiler Piece on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok. So come join us, follow us on all the social media places. And if you want to reach out to us, say, hey, I liked Rubicon, or you know what? Spiderhead is gross. We'd like to hear it. We love if you agree with us, disagree with us, have questions, all of that jazz. You can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
You can leave us a voicemail message. You can text us. We love hearing from you. If you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. That will take you to your preferred podcast platform of choice to review us. You can also review us on Apple Podcasts. That helps us out tremendously. You can also review us on Spotify. And if you really, really like the show, you can join our Patreon. We have different tiers, but for $5 a month, you get to listen to weekly bonus episodes and vote in monthly polls. This week's bonus episode is on the sci-fi Western Westworld. And boy, did we have a lively conversation on that one. And actually, we always have lively conversations on Patreon, not unlike on the main show.
Yeah, it's true.
If you also like Spoiler Piece, you can also buy merch. We have merch, which is so exciting. You can go to our website and that will take you to our merch store. We have t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags, mugs, pillows, a whole bunch of goodies. So we want to thank you for listening. And my name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. You can follow me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion S.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write and I talk about movies. I'm on all of the stuff and the whatevers in the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm Dave Sees Movies on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd.
And my name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.